Without a doubt, these dungeon weapons are some of the best weapons Bungie has ever given us. And look no further than the ARC 260 round per minute balanced heat scout rifle Voltaic Shade. Now guys, I won't lie, 260s are my preferred archetype of scout, especially in PvP. And don't get me wrong, like I like 150s, I even like 200s. And 180 round per minute scout rifles are good with box breathing. But 260s, man, they put out with the right roll. And even inside of PvE, outside of Polaris Lance, Randy may actually be my most used scout rifle in the game. That kinetic trimmer roll inside of PvE, disgusting. With that being said though, Voltaic Shade here is a balanced heat weapon. It's still 260 round per minute scouts, but intrinsically this weapon does more damage against powerful combatants, which is pretty much anything higher than a red bar enemy. It's also going to generate very low heat, and you can get that perfect vent when at very high heat. Now in terms of the damage increase that you get from this weapon type, intrinsically, this is quite a lot, guys. We're talking 14% more damage per shot compared to a normal rapid fire. And this is before we even talk traits. On top of that, the scout rifle also has a ton of great perks, including just about every arc-based perk you could ever want. So guys, let's begin. In our third column, we have Jolting Feedback, Delicate Tuning, Cooling Baubles, Trickle Charge, Rapid Hit, Shoot to Loot, and Keep Away. For our fourth column, we have Rolling Storm, Thermal Atomization, Voltshot, Frenzy, Precision Instrument, Desperate Measures, and Meganeura. Now in columns 3, right away, you probably see Jolting Feedback really standing out. It's a good part, guys, usually reserved for columns 4. So finding it here in columns 3 is intriguing. Now this perk reads that dealing repeated damage with the weapon inflicts jolts, and while amplified, jolt is applied faster. Now when testing the enhanced version of this perk, it takes roughly 7 shots to proc jolts, but when you're amplified, that drops down to 5 shots. It's a fantastic arc perk, guys, and perfect for this archetype of scout rifle, since typically you're playing a bit further back and you're consistently plinking away at targets. Now Trickle Charge is another great perk that we've talked about before, and I especially like it on the Donning Arc sidearm Fimbulwinter. Now the perk states that receiving or discharging bolt charge partially loads the magazine from reserves. Now in a normal non-heat weapon, this perk is supposed to refill 10% of your magazine with each bolt charge stack that you receive. However, this doesn't actually do anything for heat weapons. As you can see here, gaining a stack of bolt charge does nothing, with the weapon just continuing to automatically vent heat on its own. However, the other part of the perk is that discharging bolt charge also refills ammo. Normally 20%, but here on a heat weapon, this dissipates your entire heat meter. So you could be at 20%, or you could be at 100% heat and it completely dissipates it. Now, obviously you need to get 10 stacks of bolt charge and then you have to discharge it. But with how many sources we have when it comes to gaining bolt charge stacks in the game, including the likes of Rolling Storm in columns 4, this really isn't that big of an issue. Now, another great pick for columns 3 that's fantastic for utility is Shoot to Loot. Shooting an orb of power picks it up, and shooting an ammo brick also picks it up and automatically reloads all of your equipped weapons from reserves. A top tier perk, guys, especially if you're doing things like low bans, or if you're just trying to make life easy for yourself going into a DPS phase, you could top off ammo no problem with a Shoot to Loot weapon. But how does it work on a heat weapon? Thankfully, just as good as any other weapon. You shoot that orb, it's going to pick it up. You shoot that ammo brick, and it's going to completely dissipate your entire heat meter and auto reload your other weapons, which is quite nice. Now, the final perk for PvE that I would consider is Cooling Baubles. This one reads that collecting elemental pickups or an orb of power reduces heat. Pretty self-explanatory, but also pretty effective. Each pickup is going to reduce 35% of the heat on your meter. Now, for my PvP players, the standout traits for me was either Delicate Tuning, where while at low heat, the weapon has improved range and handling, as well as accuracy. You also have Rapid Hit, which is a classic one, which buffs stability. And then you have Keep Away, which increases reload, range, and accuracy when no targets are in close proximity, essentially giving you 10 range, 30 reload speed, and a decrease to your accuracy cone growth, as long as enemies are not within 15 meters. Personally, I think Delicate Tuning is the clear winner here, guys, and we'll talk more on that when we get to the PvP section of this review. Now, moving over to columns 4. I think many people are probably going to default to Voltshot, our tried and true arc-based perk. This perk reads that reloading this weapon after defeating a target overcharges this weapon for a short period of time, causing it to jolt on its next hit. Now, normally for a scout rifle, I think I would rather just pick jolting, as scouts typically have slower reload speeds. However, with this being a heat weapon, you can actually proc Voltshot fairly easily. Now, you do have to manually vent the weapon down down to 0%, but if you don't have much heat built up, this can be done extremely fast. Now, I'm sure some of you are also wondering, how does Jolting Feedback and Voltshot work together? For my testing, I wasn't really noticing anything really that special here. They're good standalone traits on their own. It just didn't seem like there was anything crazy happening when these two perks were comboed together. For example, I tried proccing Jolting Feedback and then letting the jolt kill some enemies, and then when I reloaded, I noticed it did not proc Voltshots. And then I tried the opposite by proccing Voltshots and seeing if that jolt damage could somehow proc Jolting Feedback sooner, which also didn't seem to work, which is a bit unfortunate. I was kind of hoping these two perks might have some like crazy synergy where they feed into each other. With that being said, it doesn't mean they're not good traits. They're fantastic. There just isn't some hidden synergy present here, at least from our testing. What we essentially have is two S tier traits continuing to be S tier. Moving on though, we have Rolling Storm. Final blows grant bow charge, and while amplified, final blows grant additional bow charge. Now this is pretty straightforward. Each kill with this weapon will grant 1 stack of bow charge and 2 stacks when you're amplified. Now for the enhanced version, when you have 0 stacks, that first kill is actually going to grant you 3 stacks. And if you're amplified, it'll instead grant you 4 stacks of bow charge. Now this perk obviously pairs very well with the likes of Trickle Charge, as this will help feed yourself bow charge even faster. You'll discharge it for that damage, which again, will also completely vent the heat on your weapon. Now Rolling Storm is also nicely paired with Jolting Feedback. There isn't necessarily synergy here, but they are both arc-based perks. One allows you to jolt, the other helping you get bow charge. Both very useful. And you can imagine just sitting there behind your Storm's Keep Titan, plinking away at targets, dropping all types of arc kabloomies. But this takes us to Meganeura, one of my favorite perks on High Tyrant. It reads that Precision Final Blows creates an elemental damage explosion that deals more damage based on the number of rapid precision hits dealt beforehand. Now how this works is that each precision hit is going to grant you a stack of Meganeura up to a max of 3 stacks. And these stacks last for 4 seconds with the enhanced version. Now each of these stacks is then going to increase the damage of the explosion. For instance, at 1 stack on Voltaic Shade, it's 398 damage. 2 stacks, it's 557 damage, that being a whopping 40% increase. And then at 3 stacks, it's 667 damage, capping out at that 67% increase in our explosion damage against red bar enemies. Now, I'm sure some of you are wondering if there's any synergy at all happening between Meganeura and Jolting Feedback. Now, let me just say it's not the easiest combination to test since you need to land multiple hits to proc Jolting Feedback, but in my testing at least, I didn't notice anything such as Meganeura spreading jolts further, or for instance, the explosion damage proccing Jolting Feedback quicker. Now, Columns 4 also has a new perk called Thermal Atomization. This one reads that while at high heat, this weapon deals increased damage and causes targets to explode when defeated. Now, Thermal Atomization is very similar to High Impact Reserves, except it's present just here on our heat weapons. Essentially though, once you cross 50% heat threshold, your damage will start to increase up to a max of 15%. You also get the added benefit of being able to cause targets to explode on death while at high heat, which on the Scout Rifle was about 415 damage against a red bar enemy. Outside of that, you have your more typical options for PvE: Desperate Measures, Frenzy, Precision Instrument, which is actually my go-to perk for PvP. But lots of great options here, guys, across the board, really in both columns. Now for the origin trait on this weapon. We have Imperial Allegiance. Being near allies grants increased cooling or charge rates and increased damage while at high heat or low guard energy. It's a good origin trait here, guys. We talked about it with High Tyrant. You're getting essentially free benefits for having allies within 15 meters of you and for being above 50% of your heat meter. At 1 stack, you get roughly a 3.5% increase in damage and a 1.035 times cooling multiplier. 2 stacks is around a 7% increase and a 1.07 cooling multiplier. And if you happen to be at 3 stacks, that being 3 allies nearby, you'll be getting around a 10.5% increase in damage and a 1.105 times cooling multiplier. Now the damage, of course, is what most people are really caring about here, but I do want to mention that the cooling increase is also nice as well, especially at 3 stacks. But this takes us to the PvE God Roll. Now let me just say, this is a bit of a hard pick. There's actually a lot of good things here, but thankfully we have tier 5s, which means we have multiple God Rolls per weapon. I like the idea of Trickle Charge plus Rolling Storm combo to gain bolt charge fast, and then when I discharge it with an ability or Storm's Keep, it vents all the heat from my scout here, keeping me in the gunfights. At the same time, I like the combination combination of Jolting Feedback and Rolling Storm together. Not necessarily any synergy here, but two very good arc perks, as you could take advantage of both Jolt and Bolt Charge within a single weapon. Now, Jolting Feedback and Meganeura is also a great combo. You get those max stacks in Meganeura very fast, and you've got Jolting Feedback to contribute to ad clear, AoE damage, and even single target damage when laying into a heavy target. And then when you do kill ads, Meganeura contributes to that ad clear potential. Now, could you rock Jolting Feedback and Voltshots? You could. You've got Jolting that can contribute to extra damage while you're blowing your load, and then you've got Voltshot, which after getting the kill will apply even more jolts. Some would say this is a bit overkill, but dude, this is exactly why we play Destiny. I'm looking for overkill. At the same time, I don't want you to overlook perks like Shoot to Loot and in-game content or Low Mans. It's an S tier perk. And thankfully, in columns 4, perks like Meganeura and Thermal Atomization can each proc Shoot to Loot. For those wondering though, Voltshot cannot though. All in all though, my tier 5 God Roll, I would probably want Jolting Feedback, Trickle Charge, and Shoot to Loot in columns 3, Rolling Storm, Meganeura, and Voltshot in columns 4. Now this takes us to the battery perks. Enhanced Heat Sink is pretty good as it reduces heat generation. Light Heat Sink increases both handling and vent speed. And then we have Tactical Heat Sink, which increases stability, vent speed, and range. You also have Ionized Battery, which does increase the time it takes to vent in exchange for greatly reduced heat generation. Keep in mind though, if you're using perks like Voltshot, you're going to be manually venting, which is where things like Accelerated Heat Sink comes in, which slightly reduces damage in exchange for improved cooling. But just like High Tyrant, I was not actually seeing a visual damage decrease. And then finally, we have Overclocked Heat Sink, which increases damage slightly in exchange for reduced cooling. I think Overclock is probably the way to go for PvP. It's a nice little bonus of PvE, but again, it just comes down to the trait combinations that you're using. If you're going for something that's Voltshot related, you're gonna want something that quickly vents on the weapon. Now, with this being an arc weapon, guys, let me just say there are some great artifact mods that are contributing here to the lethality of the scouts. From Dielectric in columns 4, where defeating arc debuff targets grants Bolt Charge, and rapidly defeating arc debuff targets spawns an orb of power and heals a small portion of your health. Such an easy thing to do here with Voltaic Shade. Then you also have Elemental Orbs Arc. This is a column 5 perk, which reads that arc weapon final blows have a chance to spawn an Elemental Arc Orb. Now, these orbs can be thrown or they can be shot to create an arc explosion that jolts targets that it damages. Overall, guys, this is a very solid PvE scout rifle. It's got all the arc synergies you could ever want, and it's also dead sexy. But this takes us to PvP. Guys, when it comes to 260 round per minute scout rifles inside of PvP, there's a few that definitely jump to mind. Randy is one of them, but probably my most used one is Fang of Your Utes. Now, you got to remember what made Fang of Your Utes so good. It's rapid fire, but it has precision instruments, and not just precision instruments, but enhanced precision instruments. We're talking a base time to kill value of 4 crits, 1 body in 0.93 seconds, dropping to 4 crits with precision instruments at a 0.7 time to kill value. Now, granted, you got to be perfect. You got to land 4 crits, but that's really the thing that sets it apart. The question is, can you land the 3 crit 1 body at a 0.7 time to kill value with precision instruments and a 200 weapon stat, but also an overclocked heat sink? Again, this slightly increases our damage. Unfortunately, in our testing, guys, you cannot get the 3 crit 1 body. I wish it did. Like, I was really hoping that this was going to push it just over the edge, because I love things like this. Little small, subtle bumps in damage that can slightly move either time to kill values or even just slightly move forgiveness. Point being, guys, you don't have to worry about getting to 200 weapon stats, but precision instrument, without a doubt, can still lock you in that 4 crit kill at 0.7 seconds. Now, if you didn't want to rock precision instruments, although I don't know why you would, at 200 weapon stats, you can get the 3 crit 2 body in 0.93 seconds. So it does shift 1 crit to a body at max weapon stats. But I think that's the reason why I really like precision instrument on this weapon, guys. You don't really have to be concerned with getting to that 200 weapon stats. And I think out of everything in that 4th column, precision instrument to me is the winner inside of PvP. It's the reason why we use it on things like Fang of Your Utes. I put precision instrument up there with like box breathing on 180 round per minute scout rifles. It's that shift in TTK value that allows it to be competitive. Now, what is the best perk to pair with Voltaic Shade? Look, I talked about how much I love Delicate Tuning. It's a great perk, very nice on High Tyrant. Essentially, while you're at low heat, the weapon has improved range, improved handling, and improved accuracy. And that buff sustains for a good portion of the gunfights, all the way up to 50% heat. But But at the same time, you have other options. Things like rapid hits, which contributes greatly there to stability. I know a lot of people look at rapid hits like an old perk, not very flashy, but on a weapon like this, which does produce a lot of recoil, rapid hit's kind of nice. But we also have things like keep away, which significantly increases reload, range, and accuracy when no targets are in close proximity. Now, these are all around great bumps. You're granted 10 extra range, 35 reload speed, and a decrease there in accuracy cone growth, which is why I completely understand why people may like this trait. However, for me, delicate tuning just seemed more noticeable. And this is where we get into like the subjectives here. Something I notice when using Voltaic Shade is that yes, the weapon sometimes reaches a certain point where it just can't land anything. It's almost like the weapon just overblooms. Like when you start getting into that like high heat territory, it's a good chance you need to back off, recollect yourself, and then re-engage. And I know Precision Instrument is my go-to trait in that fourth column, but I was going back and forth between keep away, between rapid hits, and between delicate tuning. And I can tell you guys, for me, delicate tuning every single time just felt better. I don't even know if we have the stats on that decrease in accuracy cone growth. Hell, it could even be the same as keep away, but I personally just felt better with delicate tuning. I just felt like that perk was aiding me more in those 1v1s. Now, as far as barrel perks go and your mag perk, I think a barrel perk like Arrowhead Break is greatly appreciated here, guys. It kicks your recoil direction up to 82. Keep in mind, Bungie is pretty much defaulted back to recoil direction as the deciding factor for your recoil. So whether you're playing controller or even mouse and keyboard, I just found Arrowhead Break, with it giving that plus 30 in recoil direction, is really nice as it brings things up to 82, which is fairly vertical. As far as that battery perk or that heatsink perk, this was kind of situational depending on the map you're engaging in. If you need more range, projection fuse, at the same time, it is a scout rifle and you're going to find yourself in a lot of mid-range duels, primarily against weapons like martlets. So a little bit of extra stability goes a long way. So things like particle repeater is really nice. Could you lean into cooling efficiency? Or perhaps you want to dial back heat generation to keep perks like delicate tuning active? You can most definitely go that route, but again, you're going to find yourself in a lot of duels with martlet right now, considering just how strong that pulse rifle is. A little bit of extra stability can go a long ways. So guys, that is our review for Voltaic Shade. Let me know in the comments below what you think. I've enjoyed it so far. By no means is it an S tier weapon inside of PvE or even inside of PvP, but it's unique, and I think it's got something here that if we ever did see a primary buff inside of PvE, well hell, we've got the trait combinations right here. The arc synergy, the archetype that it's in, and the fact that it's intrinsic here grants it even more damage on top of its origin traits. It's a weapon that I have to consider. And I know some of you right now are clutching your double specials thinking to yourself, Cross, I would never use this weapon or any other primary. Give it some time, fellas. Who knows? Maybe a primary buff is right around the corner. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.